Oh, Proud Soul says, how do you face an unreadable opponent? Someone who doesn't follow a pattern. That is when you try to out unreadable them. That's it. I mean, what you have described right there is what makes Punk, NuckleDu, and all of those guys the best. That's what makes them the best, is because they are so good at taking every key moment, remembering the story that's told in the key moment, and changing what they do in the key moment. Most people have patterns. They will do the same thing every single time. I used to light burn kick backdash like 90% of the time. I've had to light kick, burn kick, crouch medium kick again, light kick, burn kick, do this thing where I do half quarter circle back, walk back half a step, and then burn kick again. I've done EX uppercut, like I said now. You have to be good at switching those situations. The worst of us are the ones who will keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result, right? Again, I repeated that quote again. That's madness. At the highest levels, the people are going to win because they're unreadable. And so you really just have to out-unreadable them. And that's it. That's really what it comes down to, which is why at the highest levels, when you get a lot of players of equal skill, a lot of times it's almost like a crapshoot who will win because of that situation. However, even the best of us have patterns that we fall into. Even the best of us have reads. And I'm not great at picking up subtle things, but a lot of times if you listen to top players talk about other players, they're always like, he tends to do this in this situation. Even about another top player. I've heard people say that about NuckleDu, about Problem X, about Punk. Punk likes to do that about to other top players. Oh yeah, you like to do this. You know, stuff like that. And so, you know, all of us will fall into patterns. We cannot help it as human beings because that's just how we work. But the players who are the best at that, and it's one of the reasons why I feel like David has become really, really strong in this game using Honda, because Honda puts himself into a lot of key moments, and David is really good at just doing something that makes no sense because he just feels like you're going to try to do something that makes no sense. And so a lot of times he's hit me with wake up 100 hand slap. Like, how do you hit me with wake up 100 hand slap? Like that's it's so much startup on that. And he's hit me with that because he just felt like I wasn't going to do a meaty. And he was right. And because I thought he was going to do something logical and he didn't. And I got killed. So, and yeah, high fight, good call on that one too. Unless you play the opponent's lot, it's about balancing risk and reward. A lot of times, for example, if you get put into a situation where you block Karen's crouching medium punch and you're fighting against someone you don't know and you're in the middle of the screen, you will take the throw. Take the damn throw when you fight against someone new. Because that is the least damaging result. If you try to throw tech, you can lose a ton of life. If you try to hit a button, you can get meatied. If you take the throw, you can get thrown and you will lose 150 damage, 120 damage. And maybe the character has the ability to go for another meaty on you, but at least it's a mix-up. If you whiff a throw and they hit you and then they do this big old combo, you just lost 300 life and 400 stun, right? So why would you risk that as your first choice against someone you've never played against? See if they like to throw. See if they shimmy right away. See if they try to frame trap you right away. And then right away you build information. He's frame trapping. So now when he frame trapped and I blocked it, now maybe he'll go throw. But the first time you'll take the throw because then you read the situation of what he's trying to do and keep the storyline going. He knocks me down. He did a meaty. Okay, now he might throw because I blocked last time. So now there's this story being told. But you know what? I don't want to risk it. I'm just going to take the throw again. And he did throw. Okay, so this guy likes to switch to, so if you plays rock and then you play rock, And then, oh, okay, then he'll play paper because he assumes you're going to do the same thing. You know, this is a guy who switches all the time. This is a guy who's consistent and persistent. There was that Grand Blue tournament that just happened where this Catalina player was rushing down Matera and did dash up, medium punch, walk up, medium punch, dash up, medium punch, dash up, medium punch, dash up, medium punch, medium punch, medium slash attack is plus on block. So he just kept doing it. And then he ran in and stole the turn and did it again. And did it again. And he did it like 19 times in a row because he was hoping the Matera player would eventually believe he was going to switch to the next option so that he would hit him with the medium punch. But the Matera player never did. The Matera player was like, just throw me. I couldn't give a crap right now. I am blocking because if I get hit, I die. And so he just blocked forever. And so there was a situation where literally one player tried to bulldog in that situation with one option to convince the other guy to finally switch, and it never happened. And that can happen. But see, that's the thing. And so while it is an RPS, while it is a guessing game, it's all about telling the story and reading your opponent in those situations. And you start with the option that's going to hurt you the least. In Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, same thing. You take the throw, you low block first. You take the throw, you take the overheads. Yes, your opponent's going to get advantage afterwards, but you lose the least amount of damage than if you try to throw and they overhead and you get counter hit, or you get hit by something and all of a sudden you lose 60% of your life to Catalina. You go with the mix-up. So, for example, if I'm a player and I'm attacking someone else who's fallen on the ground, my first instinct is going to do a proper meaty. Most people aren't going to want to waste EX uppercuts right away, so proper meaty can't be beat by anything except for a proper EX wake up. Technically, if they block it, they beat it, but you still get pressure that way. So as a player, when I knock someone down, I will almost always go for the meaty the first time I fight them because that's where you want to start. It's the safest place to start, and then curve the story from there, and then change the narrative from there. So I'll medium punch, and then walk up and throw, and they tech it. Okay, now I can shimmy them. Medium punch, walk forward, walk back, they whiff a throw, I hit them. You know, that all came from the first medium punch. I didn't establish the shimmy because I did that right away or I knew. I worked my way into that situation. I didn't care that he blocked my medium punch and got away. He teched my throw the next time and got away. I'm building the story. When you watch me play, a lot of times I'll be like, this guy's buttonsy. This guy likes to tech, he throws techs. Time to shimmy him. This is how you actually play the game. And it's why, like High Fight said, it's now intentionally designed that most characters get no Oki off of throws in the middle of the screen. Almost no character gets a real good mix-up in a throw in the middle of the screen because they want to make it so that's the safe option, take the throw in the middle of the screen, but if you get put in the corner, everything changes. If you get put in the corner, everything changes, and that punishes you for getting pushed into the corner. So that's the way the whole thing works. That's how you want to do it. So if you do fight someone who's unreadable, if you do fight somebody that you've never fought before and you don't know, go with the safest option first, and then tell a different story as you go and adjust that way. So branch out from there, spread out from the initial safest option. You can go crazy and go for something wild the very first time if you really feel like it. But if you do something like that and I was fighting against you, I would be like, this guy's crazy. This guy's wild. And a lot of times you'll find that's true. If someone does something crazy the first time, they're usually crazy everywhere. And so you use all this information to tell the stories, etc., etc. And that is the power of fighting games right there. That's how you make it work. So I mean, it's not necessarily a lazy design, JGB. I don't really agree with that's a lazy design. That's the way the game works. That's how the game is designed to play. It needs to have that mix-up, but it needs to make sure that the mix-ups aren't equal in result. If you make a fighting game where all three of the mix-ups result in the same damage, then it really is a guessing game. Then it really truly becomes random guessing. And we don't want that in a fighting game. You have to have a weighted guessing game. It has to be a weighted guessing game in order to be able to develop a proper mind game situation. If it's not weighted, then it is truly random, and you might as well play against a random machine. You know, you might as well play that way. If you make it weighted so that one is worse than the other, one is not as damaging as the other, that creates the what is the risk, what is the safe option, etc., etc. So now you've created a proper, you know, mind game kind of situation. And honestly, shout outs to David Serlin. He was one of the first people to talk about that. And that whole concept of having it weighted, changing the way you play something like an RPS, made a lot of sense to me. He was one of the first people I saw talk about that, and I really like that. And I know, you know, I often don't talk about Serlin glowingly, but again, he's a very intelligent guy. And it was a very, really eye-opening thing that I read, and it's always stuck with me. And I'm going to give him credit where it deserves. So, is it best to not show all your tech first match, but do it gradually? Yes, 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 yes. Everybody has, because you play online and you don't know if you're ever going to find this guy again, everybody is used to using everything they've got right at the start and try to win like, ha-ha, take that. But then if you run into them again, you don't have anything to show. You'll see a lot of situations where top players get beat up in the first game because the other guy showed all their cool tricks. And then now their cool tricks don't work anymore because the other guy knows all the tricks, and you can see that player just completely falls apart because they don't have any new tricks. I've told this story many, many times. I fought a Nakuma in Street Fighter 4 a long time ago, where he threw a fireball at me at full screen away, and I jumped over the fireball, and he would walk up and do standing heavy kick. Now, Zangief, while crouching, couldn't crouch under standing heavy kick, so I had to block both hits of Akuma standing heavy kick, and I was put into a negative position. Now, I figured out right away after I blocked like the second or third one that if I just jumped over the fireball, landed EX green hand, I would hit them right away. That's a free hit. That's a free hit because he's gonna do it. But the thing about it was I was winning and I wasn't doing that. So I was like, why do I want to do this? I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna save it. If I'm still winning and I've not had to use that strategy, I'm just going to jump over fireballs and let him heavy kick me. And I'll keep convincing him that it's the right thing to do. I'll keep convincing him that this is the correct action. So I jumped over fireball, blocked it. Sure, yeah, I didn't advance that way and I blocked it. But then I just kept walking and then I would win a round and then et cetera, et cetera. And then I finally got to the last game. He had about this much life left. And I was like, time to win. I walked backwards, full screen away. He threw a fireball. I jumped over and I EX green handed and it killed him. I got a free win that way because I saved that trick for the very end. I was winning without the trick. So why should I use the trick? Why should I use the trick? If I'm winning without it now, I get a guaranteed win later on because this is something that he wasn't expecting. You know, it's situations like that. You don't want to use everything right away. You want to keep adding to what you need to win. Do everything basic first. And as you need the new tricks, keep pulling them in there, basically. How many game one, round one situations where Punk lost so badly and then wrecks them straight because he got enough info about the opponent? Exactly. Exactly. Tekken, so that's the thing, Tim. I have learned quickly that Tekken is such a different beast, and yet still kind of the same in a lot of ways. But yes, Tekken, a lot of times you have to go crazy. But Tekken, the reason why going crazy works in Tekken is because with something like Street Fighter V, they don't have the real concept of high, medium, and low. They don't have crushes. They don't have moves that are just immune to certain things. You know what I mean? So, for example, a hop kick. You do a hop kick. It's just immune to down one. It's programmed that it can't get hit by down one. So down one, while a 10-frame button is your guaranteed best way to keep your turn whenever it's your turn, you can always hop kick, and you hop kick and you'll beat it. If I do this move that makes me duck under stuff, I can duck under standing ones. if I do this move that kind of has a sidestep, I can beat you know, there's a lot of crush factor in this game, so the frames can't tell you everything. If you're playing Street Fighter V and Karen does crouching strong, standing strong to you while you are in the corner and you don't have any EX meter, there is literally nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. You have to take that sequence. You have to block low strong into standing strong. There is absolutely nothing you can do, and it's not even a true block string, but there's nothing you can do. But in Tekken, if your opponent is going to do something and give him the ability to stand one and always take his turn, you do a crouching move. It breaks it. If he does down one so that he is a 10-frame move and always takes his turn, you hop kick and it breaks it. So there is a little bit of control in Tekken of kind of going a little bit wild. Yeah, so they do, but in Tekken, unlike Street Fighter V, there aren't guaranteed situations. It's all situational. Exactly, exactly. Okay, you're right, Duo 11. Gil can parry that Karen sequence. He actually can. He definitely can do that, and it's a big advantage that Gil has. Provoking SC says, like, I will look for situations where they will DP, then bait it. Sometimes people don't realize that they on autopilot. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize they're on. I fought against the Bison online that did Devil's Reverse to me, and I uppercut him out of the air, and then he kept Devil's Reversing. Like, that was his entire game plan. And this guy was like in platinum. So I just wasn't sure if he just devil reversed his way into platinum. But I uppercutted him every single time and he never stopped. And I didn't understand. Like, some of you guys were probably on my stream when I was doing that. I was so confused. I was like, he's not stopping? And I just kept I didn't know what was happening. I was super confused by that. I was super confused by that. But sometimes that just happens. Sometimes it just happens. And you know what? Why do I need to pull out tricks? I'm just going to wait till he Devil's Reverses and I'm going to uppercut him. I'm just going to do that until he loses, until he stops Devil's Reversing. Then I'll bring out my normal fundamental tricks. Then I'll play them like normal. But if I never need to, why even bother going in? Why pressuring? I fought against the Balrog that never stopped hitting buttons. And I kept trying to throw him. I kept trying to steal turns by micro-walking in between my pokes. And he kept hitting me. And finally, I was like, why am I doing this? He's always hitting buttons. Why am I trying to go to the next level of mix-up when he isn't, when it's not working? So instead, I did crouching medium kick into light burn kick times N, and the guy just melted. Like, I just hit him with that constantly, and eventually he would start blocking, but he would fall back into it, and I just kept doing it again, and he died again. Eventually, I fought him the first time, and he beat me because he kept hitting buttons, and then the time I ran into him again, I was like, this is buttons Balrog, and so I just stopped trying to ever steal a turn. I stopped ever trying to throw, and I just kept doing one thing, and I never had to advance to the next thing, and I won. That's basically how it works. Do you know when frame data became something players started to focus on? Was there a particular turning point or moment that woke people up to its importance? This is a controversial topic because I know a lot of people don't agree with me. But I don't believe frame data was as important for a lot of older games. Frame data became a lot more important. It was always important for Tekken and Virtua Fighter because those games were designed around the concept of frame data. Those were the first few games that even had a ton of frame data available for people. Even the term frame trap came from Tekken and Virtua Fighter. Those games came from there. Even in Street Fighter 4, frame data wasn't as important, but that's when people started doing it, when the internet became available and it was information that people needed. But you can still learn Street Fighter 4 without frame data because also there's no input buffer. In my opinion, I really do believe it's the latest games that we have, Mortal Kombat, Tekken 7, Street Fighter 5, where frame data has really become that important. Because frame data still doesn't really matter in Guilty Gear. Frame data really doesn't matter in Samurai Showdown. Frame data really, I mean, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, you do need to know some frame data, but you don't need to know the numbers. You just need to know my turn, his turn. You don't care what the numbers are. You just know whose turn is what, and that's it. You don't don't need to know the numbers as much. Street Fighter V, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken, I think, are the most Mortal Kombat 11 are the most number-intensive, frame data number-intensive games. It's been mostly a very recent thing, in my opinion. But the thing is, I've always been a player of heart. I've never been a mind player. For a lot of those other people out there who are mind players, like an Ultra David, for them the frame data was super important in something like Street Fighter 4. It never mattered to me. I could get by without it because the game was designed in a way, because most games have ways to disrespect frame data. So, for example, in Street Fighter 4, backdash was invincible. So if Karen did low strong, stand strong, you could backdash, get away. Uppercut, FADC made you safe. So you had invincible uppercut. So a lot of people would just do that. Disrespect frame data. Third strike, didn't matter. It didn't matter how negative you were, you could parry in 1 frame. So if you were -1 and someone attacked, you could parry it. In CVS 2, you could roll. You know, in Super Turbo, you could uppercut, you could throw. Throws were 1 frame. So a lot of games, you have ways to disrespect frame data a lot. And starting with these more recent games, that there is a lot more reliance on frame data. And yes, according, Hi-Fi says there's a lot more to learn than just frame data. Absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is, my opinion on the difference is that we went from Street Fighter 4, where if you didn't know any frame data, you could be a strong player, to Street Fighter 5, where you can't be a strong player without knowing frame data. So while in Street Fighter 5, frame data might even be 30% of what you need to know to be good at the game, maybe 25%, maybe 20%, it's still something that you have to know, whereas many other fighting games, you don't need to know any frame data and you can be strong. Street Fighter 5, you have to know it. Mortal Kombat 11, you have to know it. Tekken, you've always had to know it. That's just the way Tekken has been. So that's how I feel. And again, you can learn Street Fighter 5 by learning the situations and stuff, but it will take so much longer. It will take so much longer to learn and understand, and it'll take you a lot more time to get better. You can absolutely learn it without the frame data, but I think it is absolutely the wrong way to learn Street Fighter 5. I really honestly think it's the wrong way to learn that game. Yeah, because the situations are very repetitive in Street Fighter 5. So that's why having that frame data is so important. It's kind of necessary. But yeah. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Yeah, and that's the thing too about Street Fighter 5 as well. Street Fighter 5, more than any other fighting game, puts you next to the opponent at -1, -2, +1, or +2, more than any other Street Fighter game. None of the other games do that. And I will always stick by that. There are so few less moves that go, brah, brah, we're right next to each other. Pushback on block was so much bigger in a lot of other games that you never had to worry about it as much. Like I said, there was a lot of ways to disrespect frame data, so it didn't matter as much. But Street Fighter 5 loves putting you next to people at +2, +1, -1, -2. It loves putting you that way. I mean, it's not an accident, because if it was an accident, there'd be a lot more moves that make you 0 right next to the opponent. There are very few moves that actually make you 0 when you're right next to somebody after they block or you block or whatever. The 0 is such a rare case. It's always -1, -2, +1, +2, always. And that's because Street Fighter 5 is designed around that, which is why, in my opinion, you need to know the frame data. You learn the situation, so eventually the numbers don't matter, but why not just go look at a chart and look at all the +1, -1, +2, all those situations, and just be like, oh, you know, you kind of have to notice that a lot. Yeah, Alex Natron. So if I block a move like this, brah, in a lot of older games, you go block, and you go over here. In Street Fighter 5, it's like block, Like, you don't go anywhere on block. So a lot of times if Laura did crouching medium kick into elbow slash, instead of going elbow attack, and then we end up right next to each other, you go block, and then you would get pushed away from Laura because Laura would stop, and then the other person would slide back from the block stun. That doesn't happen as much in Street Fighter V. You've got Cammy, knee bullet. You've got Cammy, spin knuckle, puts you in that situation. Dive kick, you land, you're right next to them. Bison EX scissor kick, you're next to them. Psycho Axe, you're next to them. Heavy kick, you're next to them. You know, Laura this, you know, Balrog EX dash punch. I mean, like, you go through every character. Every character has like a million ways to end up right next to you, and no one is punishable. And that's Street Fighter V. Like, that's how Street Fighter V works. Frame data has always existed. It's just never been so, like, when we used to get those Brady Games guides and they had frame data in them, it was always cool to look at them like, oh, cool, this is cool. I can look at the frame data. Look at this. This is awesome. It never changed how I played a game. It's almost never changed how I played a game. I can find the frame data super turbo, and it's not going to change a damn thing of how I play the game because it really doesn't matter. The frame data was just cool technical information. Now it's required reading, in my opinion. So you can learn without it, but it's going to take you that much longer, and why would you want to do it that way? You know, that's kind of how I feel about frame data with something like Street Fighter V and MK11. And in fact, in MK11, the frame data would tell me what the move was for. I would always see a move, and I'm like, this is the whiff punish string, because none of the sequences are safe on block. If you stop anywhere in any of this chain, it's not safe on block. Oh, look, this is -6, so this is my fishing string. You know, like, you know, the frame data of Mortal Kombat 11 told me how to use the moves. Then I play Samurai Showdown. Doesn't matter at all. Like, I can look at frame data. It won't teach me a damn thing about how to use any of the moves. I will just have to experiment with it because everything on block goes into recoil. They've just eliminated the frame data factor completely, you know? So that's what it is. Different games will require different amounts of it. So Duo 11 also, well, let me see. Finitude asks, do you think frame data detracts from the organic, spontaneous character of fighting games? Depends on how you feel about it, to be honest with you. There are people out there who hate combos because they think it's stupid that a game full of mind games and it's really about outsmarting your opponent then degrades into playing a rhythm game at some point in time, and whoever can rhythm game better than the other person, you know, is better. That's stupid. Like, it should be all about the mind games. I love that shit, dude. I love execution. I love the fact that people can drop combos. That is one of the most human factors to me, and I love that. But I totally get why other people don't. And there's no right or wrong answer. So being frame data heavy, I've told people that this is just the future of fighting games because every fighting game is this way. If you went back and played old fighting games with today's technology, you would definitely use frame data. I don't agree with that, but that's of a different opinion. You can't really say whether a game is better or worse one way or the other. It's just how you feel, what you want out of a fighting game. In my opinion, the best fighting games are the ones that are going to rely a little bit on frame data, but give everyone ways to easily disrespect the frame data so that it's not there. Create a good balance between both. Duo 11 says, also, I feel like in Street Fighter V, there's a huge difference in terms of damage between a 5-frame punish and a 6-frame punish. That wasn't the case in Street Fighter 4. Yeah, again, all of it is, it's very Tekken. It's very Tekken. Street Fighter V and Mortal Kombat 11 took a lot from Tekken. Because in Tekken, launch punishes are 14-frame punishes. 14-frame punishes. A few very happy characters have some 13-frame launchers. But for the most part, if you get a big combo, the move is -14. And what happens then is that when you play Tekken... 15 frames. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I was one off. 15 frames is launch punishable. Few characters have the 14-frame happy launches. Yes, okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Isaac Locke. Thank you, I got those numbers wrong. So, in Tekken, what happens is with your characters, you actually just have the 10-frame punish, the 11-frame punish, the 12-frame punish, And that's generally where you are. 13, 14 kind of blend together, and then the 15 frame punish. So some moves are going to be 15 frame punishable because they're really good and they deserve to be killed. And then some moves are not going to be that punishable, can only be punished by light damage. That's how Tekken is designed. It's designed so that certain things are only punished by weaker punishes than others. And that's how they balance moves. That's how they make moves good or bad. Because if there was a launch move that could not be, if there's a safe launch that can't be crushed, that's a mid launcher that is safe on block and can't really be punished that badly, which is what Leroy used to have before he got nerfed, then the character's automatically going to be too strong. And that's kind of how you have to balance Tekken. You have to have that in mind of what is punishable here. And again, where my problem lies is I can't recognize moves. So I would block something and everybody's like, dude, that elbow is launch punishable, launch punish it. And I'm like, what elbow? I don't remember blocking an elbow ever, you know? Like, that's where my problem with Tekken came in. I can't recognize moves. But yes, like Space Lou says, you can pick up on frame data, but just by playing, you can. And especially in Tekken, because Tekken has far less plus moves. Far less plus moves. And usually, the plus moves are crouchable, or they have motions where they come down from top to bottom. Almost everything that's just a pure plus string comes from top to bottom. You know, King has that move where he runs and spins and punches down. Or he does the hoppy thing that he does this. Fang kind of headbutts you like this. A lot of the plus moves are top-down attacks. And then stuff in the middle of strings that are plus are almost always high crushable. So if you play something and you block something and it's always their turn, then you learn to crouch it and then you can punish it from there as well. So you can learn these games without knowing the frame data. But even in Tekken, because there is that factor that it's not the frame data that you're going to punish this move, it's learning to crouch under it and stuff like that, you do learn more about Tekken through not using frame data than you do in Street Fighter V. I personally think Street Fighter V is the most frame data intensive game out there, that you can learn so much just by looking at numbers, and you find out a lot about numbers. And one of the hardest games to learn just by feel. Now you can, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying that learning frame data is definitely recommended to learn that game. Let's see here. Execution is more about reactions rather than combos in Street Fighter V. Yes, that's very true as well. Do I personally believe that just because a game doesn't require to learn frame data that it's suddenly easier? I've read a few different debates about it. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Every fighting game is going to be different. It's just going to be friendlier. If you have ways to disrespect frame data, it's a more beginner-friendly way to play the game. Because if you tell somebody that if they block Karen's crouching medium punch and then she does stand medium punch, that there's literally nothing you can do, that's a very hard lesson for people to learn in fighting games. It's one of the hardest things for people to learn in fighting games right away, which is why everyone plays Ken and everyone uppercuts like a madman when you start, because he has that ability to disrespect frame data with a jab uppercut in Street Fighter 4 every single time. He's one of the most beginner-friendly characters for that reason. So a character exists that helps ease people into learning how to play fighting games until they start learning that when people block their uppercut and they die, then they got to stop doing that. But it eases them into that situation. Street Fighter V, I mean, if you block a Bison EX scissor kick and he does standing light kick and you hit a button every single time, some people are just not going to learn. They're just not going to learn. But if your uppercut gets blocked and you get punished, you will learn. That is something that's far more tangibly learnable than just recognizing that after I block an EX scissor kick, I can't hit a button. Like, there's something about that concept and why when characters didn't have uppercuts in Street Fighter 4, everyone backdashed. Everyone started mashing backdashes because that was something you could do to disrespect frame data. Having the ability to disrespect frame data, in my opinion, makes games easier to pick up on. But that doesn't necessarily mean the game is easier to learn, because every fighting game gets complicated. It's just, it's a little more door entry friendly than it is for other fighting games, in my opinion. Grinning Oni says, I would think, and I might be wrong, but with so much of the FGC being online gameplay nowadays, I would think loose frame data would be more online friendly than very, very tight frame data. So it's weird to me that games are coming increasingly tight in their frames, but being played more and more in an environment, input and reaction time isn't stable. Well, that's a whole different conversation, Grinning Oni, because that's not a problem with fighting games. That's netcode sucks. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference. It shouldn't make a difference. And we have a solution. A solution exists. If rollback netcode was never invented, then yeah, we would talk about that. But because rollback, and in fact, fighting games have done that before. Tekken 7 and Street Fighter 5, when they both came out, had intentional input lag put into them that they take away when you go online to make them feel similar to each other. Those games did that. That was actual documented factors in there. Dude, Tubaware, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, you can see it when I would do like Birdie. Whenever he did EX Bullhorn or EX Bullhead, I never knew which one he was doing. And on commentary, you could hear me. He does the EX charge. Like, I just never knew. It's crazy. But in any case, I think the stream has gone on long enough. Tubaware being in the chat means that, you know, he's trying to subtly remind me that in half an hour we're going to begin the Generation Spacing podcast. So that's going to be starting up in about half an hour on this channel here at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. But in half an hour, a stream starts again, and I will be doing the podcast with Tubaware and Ebonic Plague. It's going to be episode 2 of Generation Spacing. So if you guys just want to stick around here and wait around for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to start that up very soon. Should be a lot of fun. We did the first one last week. Was a really, really good time. Had a great time in there. But let's go ahead and call it a night. And then I can get set up for that. I can feed the cats, get ready for that. And then, yeah, just get ready for some fun fighting game conversation with myself, Tubaware, and Ebonic Plague. We'll have a wonderful, grand old time. So definitely stick around and watch that. And just keep your eye on this channel for that. So there you go. All right, guys. I will talk to you later. Have a good night. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, you can't KO your opponent without your first attack. Just did that in super putty style. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night and see you guys later. Peace. Oh, man.